Hello guys, so switches. Here I have on the screen a switch, a gear, and an arm. And as you can see, the arm is coming around and hitting this switch, and when it does, it's reversing the motor direction. Now, any object can be a switch. I just drew this switch in Fusion 360. I imported it using Create Asset. And then inside Create Asset, I checked two boxes. One said, "You're a switch," and the other said, "Hide the shaft." So in this switch device, the shaft is hidden. It's not displayed. Everything you see drawn is just what I drew for the switch. Now, when you designate something as a switch or as a ball dropper, you can simply click on the object and you'll see a control show up. In this case, it's switch control. And when you check it, you'll be just given a list of options for what a switch can do. If it were a ball dropper, you'd be giving a list of options that a ball dropper can do. Now, in this case, a switch can either be active or inactive, because you don't have to have one actively doing something. If you have it in, you might want to turn them on and off, depending on what your mechanism is. There's a checkbox for unmovable. This makes it so the switch cannot be knocked out of position by large masses that hit it. The reason it's selectable as non-unmovable is you may want to stick that switch on an arm and have it activate while it's swinging around on an arm. So unmovable is for a switch or a ball dropper sitting in space, and you don't want them to be knocked out of the way by large masses that hit them. Next, we're given a function. We can turn a device on or off. We can toggle its power or toggle its direction. In this case, I have toggle direction selected. We have a momentary. This can select whether or not a switch, when a lever moves off a switch, whether the switch turns off again if it had turned on. For example, a momentary switch is one which, when pressed, turns something on, but the second you release it, turns it off. Unchecking momentary means that this is a toggling switch. So you hit it once to turn something on, hit it again to turn it off. In the case of toggle direction, it will simply toggle direction each time it's hit. Debounce time is how long a switch must be hit before it will sense itself as being activated. I have found that debounce of 0 is best because we also have a setting called retrigger delay, and in this we can tell the switch how long before it can be triggered again. This is important because some things that hit a switch may not be able to slow down very quick and then move off, and you don't want the switch triggering multiple times. After that, we have a control type. You can either control a ball dropper, and if I select dropper, you can see I have a drop-down list saying droppers, and there are none on the screen, so none is shown. If I select motors, wheel shows up because this wheel has a motor. So in this case, I'm telling the motor on wheel to toggle its direction whenever it's hit, and if we hit run, we can see that's exactly what it does. Now, a switch will shrink in its own Z direction whenever it's hit. This is just so that you can see whether or not that switch is working, whether it's been activated, and how long it takes before it's retriggerable. The expansion happens after the switch's retriggerable delay times out. As you can see right now, when we hit the switch, it very quickly bounces back out as the lever takes off. And this is triggered by this retrigger delay. If I were to set retrigger delay up to a few seconds, you'll see that when the switch gets hit, it shrinks down and it stays shrunk down until it's ready to pop back out again. During the shrunk time, it cannot be retriggered. So this is important under certain circumstances where you want that switch not to be hit again for a particular length of time. And that's pretty much it for switches. They're fairly easy to use, and you can set them to control any motor or ball dropper that's on the screen. And we'll have more types as time goes by. Thanks a lot.